This section now is called Zulu, the first born. Right? So, you see how I say Jacob was the firstborn? Because he demonstrated and he showed himself to be the firstborn. And he got the inheritance and the blessing of the firstborn. So now let's look at what I mentioned. That the Jews, those who call themselves Jews, the Israelites, let's talk about them. They have certain qualities. They have Hebrew, they speak Hebrew. Right? They have the Torah, they have the Talmud. Right? Talmud. Tanakh, actually. Tanakh. That's the Hebrew Bible. They speak Hebrew. They have the Tanakh, which is the Old Testament. Right? With all the promises of the prophets and everything. Right? Right. And they're learning how to speak Hebrew, write Hebrew. They have the Tanakh, and they have other oral traditions. You know, traditions is basically how do they interpret what's been written. That's called the Mishnah and the Talmud. But I'm not going to go into that. That's what they decided. But let's look at the characteristics of the people that call themselves Jews. These people, now, will be contrast. Let us contrast. Right. Jews. Zulu. Right? These are like twins. And in the context of what Shembe did, Shembe is a man that came and said, the Zulu people must observe the law given to Moses. I want to read this out for you now quickly. Alright. So, what Shembe does, I'm going to go into this. But before I go into what Shembe does, right? The Jews, Hebrew speakers, right? They have the Old Testament as their principal writing. But they have other writings, like the Talmud, which is their oral tradition. Right? And they have their own culture, right? But what they have done now, we have something called the Zionist movement. Right. So, the Jews have not concerned themselves that their inheritance is Jehovah, the unborn king. Right? To restore them and exalt them. Right? They have not concerned themselves with that. They have instead started a Zionist movement, and they are known for being bankers. So throughout history, they're known for being bankers, moneylenders, wealthy, successful, minority group, elitists, sometimes elitists. So we're not going to go into that. So these are the attributes of the people that call themselves Jews today. But the biggest important thing is that they started a Zionist movement where they want to restore Israel. And Israel is now a democratic state. So they've rejected the idea of a king. They have not made a place for their king. So what place does Jehovah have in their democratic state? This is what I'm saying. So you can tell that the Jews, though they speak Hebrew, though the Testament, though they were the first ones to get the Testament, the covenant, they're entitled to the birthright of Jehovah. They are entitled. They're the firstborn. They're entitled. They're supposed to get their blessing, which is Jehovah God, their King, who will restore them, their nation Israel, and exalt them, and get all the other nations to attach themselves to them, and restore peace and a paradise on earth. That's their blessing. That is their inheritance. But look what they choose to do. They have a Zionist movement that is funded by a whole lot of Jews all over the world that gather money because of their success in business and commerce to fund the Zionist movement to establish and impose Israel in an Islamic environment. And they do this by force. Right. This is what they're doing right now. This is what they're doing right now. I mean, just the other day, I was hearing, they're killing motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying? To impose themselves in Israel. So now, just to get to the chase, this has been quite a long thing, just to get to the chase. If Jews is the motherfucking Esau, how do we say the motherfucking Esau? It's because those are the firstborns. They despise their inheritance. They set up a democratic state and don't try. So instead of going for what will give them damn. So I think we just lost power there. And I think we'll have to pause. See, I lost you there. Load shedding. Ain't that some bullshit? But I think you guys get the point. Esau despises his birthright and inheritance by going after satisfying their own carnal desires of their flesh. You know what I mean? We want to be successful commercial guys, you know, and they brag about the fact that they are probably the most successful race group on the planet by percentage, you know. But if you look at the group of people, they're the most successful, they thrive, they brag about these things. So they're getting the cream of the crop of the world. They're using that power, that influence to push a Zionist movement which is establishing a state in Israel in an Islamic environment. So they're not concerned about the means that was promised to them. The means for them to restore Israel is their inheritance, is their unborn king, Jehovah. Right? That they don't even refuse to mention his name. They even refuse to say his name. They call him Adonai, Lord. So they're not about this name. You know what I mean? So they despise the birthright. But here comes along the man called Shimba, and he says to the little people, hang on. We've picked up this omen called the Bible. Now they have the Bible. Right? Later, they second in line to receive this, they speak Zulu. Right? And now, what Shimba does, he says, let us create a custom called Ubnazareta. Set of customs and laws that respond to this Bible. So this is what has been consecrated. Black magic. Talking about black magic now. And this is what has been consummated. So the equivalent of our oral tradition is something called Isi Sabelelo. That has the prayers and dirges that are supposed to invoke the appearance of the God of the Bible. Right. So this is what they're about. So now I'll even read out the section. The Sabbath prayer starts off with this, and this is point 3 in the Sabbath prayer. It goes, Mesabenu Jehovah Zizugulana, Zizugulana. So this is a prayer to the congregation of Nazareth that was there in the foundation and the descendants, to all the descendants of the Zulu people who choose to become Nazareth. Nigcina imithetho yakhe anilobela yona uJehova ngenceku yakhe uMoses ukuze ukudumisa kwenu ukwamukela kuThixo wenkosi. So the reference here that is in the Bible is Malachi chapter 4 verse 4 that says Moses got the law at Herod. So basically what Shebe is saying, or the founder of the church is saying, now, the founder of the church does not attribute this knowledge to himself. He claims he was divinely inspired by the God of the Zulu people and the God of the Bible, who's the God of the Bible. So under this inspiration, he's telling the Zulu people that, look, you were there at Herod. The covenant, Herod was a place where the Jews got the law. So he's saying that the Zulu people were at Herod. Received the law of Moses through Moses at Herod. That's what he's saying. So I'm going to go into this and say the attributes of how Jacob was able to win the blessing and the inheritance of his brother, elder brother Esau. The only thing, he lied 2 times. He said, who are you? I'm Esau. Shembe says, who are we? We are Israel, the one that got the law at Herod. But the Zulu people have nothing to do with being Jewish. They have no Jewish heritage. In fact, Shembe goes and emphasizes that the Zulu people need to keep track of their ancestry. So there's no Nazareth, there's no Nazareth that will say, I am actually a descendant of Abraham. They will say, I'm a descendant of who? My father, Vilagazi, Ompepe, Tagwa, what. Or for example, I would go, Uzwi, Tegalanga, Ebona, and go on. Those were my ancestors. I don't recognize the ancestors of the Bible. But in the context of the Bible and how to respond to the Bible, hey, we are the people that got the law from heaven. And this is very important for you guys to understand this. The only way you understand this is if you understand that the Bible is a piece of literature. So it is a story that's being told. And Shembe is simply just responding to the story. Say, hey, we're those guys in the story, but in real life, and this is how it is in real life. So, how do I put it? So the Bible is literally just an illustration of what actually is. So what Shembe does with these customs and laws is to try and get the attention of the unborn king and ensure that the attention of the unborn king is going to restore what was the Zulu kingdom. And anybody that understands who the Zulu people are, these are the true sons of God. These are the sons of heaven. They lived in a paradise. Plenty cattle, plenty livestock, plenty produce from the land, plenty game. Paradise. Restore the Zulu kingdom and exalt them amongst the nations. Right? And in return, what does Shembe do? He gives and he allows the unborn king the opportunity, and he gives him his position called Inkosi. Yase Parame. So people don't understand. Some would ask, who's Inkosi Parame? Inkosi Parame is the unborn king. So some would confuse him as saying that's Shembe. Yes, sure, that is who Shembe was. But Shembe spoke about who was coming. The unborn king. That is Nkosi yasePhakameni. So what Shembe has done with the customs, so he took what is consecrated in the Bible and consummated it in order to bring about a reality where people already know that there is Nkosi yasePhakameni. So you see, if the unborn king makes an appearance, where is he going to go? Is he going to go and try and impose himself in a democratic state? Or is he going to respond to the prayer of Shembe and say, oh, he's already made a place for me in Nkosi yasePhakameni. And they are waiting for me to restore the Zulu kingdom and to attach the rest of the world to them. Right? So this is what we say, this is fleshly Israel, and this is spiritual Israel. So what's important, what I was mentioning, in the fact that Jesus' work and Paul's work is very important for recontextualizing the promises that were made to fleshly Israel. And saying that it's actually these promises are meant for a spiritual Israel. So why do we say spiritual Israel? Because it's not like apparent. So we wouldn't be able to tell who is really Israel. You can't see by our sight. We like Isaac, we can't really tell who the blessing really belongs to. But if we look at what I was saying, I might sound like Jacob, I might speak Zulu, right? But I feel like Esau, because now what Shembe has done is that these Zulu people observe the Sabbath and make Nkosi yasePhakameni the Lord of the Sabbath, and are waiting for Nkosi yasePhakameni to make an intervention, because they've created a placeholder for him. The Jews do celebrate or do observe the Sabbath, but it's not about their king. It's not about their king. It is a cultural tradition, oral tradition that has been passed down to say, hey, but Shembe gets the Zulu people to say, hey, you guys, they lie. Who are we? We're Zulu. We speak Zulu, we sound Zulu, we don't sound like Hebrews, we don't even know how to read Hebrew, none of that. The law, the language in which the covenant was given, or the story was given, they were the first to receive the story. The Zulu people are probably one of the last groups on the planet to receive the story of the Bible. But they show themselves to be firstborns because they feel like the firstborn, because they observe the Sabbath, they are waiting, they follow their king, their coming king, they're already following their coming king, Nkosi yasePhakameni, who they call Nkosi yasePhakameni. They're already observing the Sabbath, ensuring that when he does come, that coming king will have their attention. So, this is what's happening. So, the Zulu people, because of Shembe and his Amanazareta movement versus the Zionist movement, if the Zionist movement is Esau, the Zionist movement would be Esau because they went after the fleshly things. They have not prioritized the presence of their unborn king. The Zulu people, the Amanazareta movement, on the other hand, has made that the center of the objective, that we get the Zulu people to observe the Sabbath. Yes, like Jacob, we don't sound like Esau, right? But when you check the other boxes, touch, feel, taste, the smell, they even call Nkosi yasePhakameni iphungelike. So the smell, the touch, the feel, they observe the Sabbath. So all the customs of Nazareth, and I'm going to go into the details about observing the Sabbath, sticking true to the laws that were passed down by the Zulu ancestors, the covenant that was made at Herod. So this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. So people don't understand what a Matherator is. It is basically a motherfucking Jacob. A Matherator, a motherfucking Jacob. Because they have just shown themselves to have stolen the birthright, or won the birthright rather, of the Jewish movement. Do you get what I mean? It is the Hebrews that are supposed to get this. So I'm going to end it there.